executive cabinet meeting for the Board of County Commissioners to order for Monday, November 9th. And let the record reflect we have all three commissioners present. And first topic is Mr. Tim Fitzgerald and Ken Moore.
Two of the best and brightest the county has to offer, sitting right next to me today.
With the name Tim Fitzgerald and Ken Moore, right?
Yeah. Understand, the most important thing to know is that tomorrow is the 245th birthday of the United States Marine Corps.
There you go.
That's what we need to know.
That's impressive.
So,
That's impressive.
you may not see me tomorrow. You may not see Al tomorrow. All right, well, commissioners in C-suite, good morning. We really do have a very short presentation, short slideshow on our COVID-19 mitigation plan. I want to show you what we're doing. First, thank you for the CARES Act funding you gave us to initiate this project. That was back in August, if you remember. I trusted the updates we sent you, showed you how effective we were spending that money that you gave us and what we're doing with that money. So we truly appreciate that. Let me quickly introduce my team. Right here next to my left is Ken Moore. Ken is our project manager. You know, he killed it with the Odyssey case management, project managing. Leslie Shaw, my office manager. Wave your hand, Leslie. Sitting well, not right next to Leslie, but on our screen right next to Leslie is Dr. Shiloh Grant. She is our business analyst. That's who you approved back in August to help us put this program together.
Welcome.
And then right below Shiloh on the screen is Julia. Julie is my court services manager. She runs all the clerks and the processors and the paperwork. And Julie, you gonna put your video on, or just gonna say hi?
She just needs to turn the light on.
Yeah. All right. So, and then other members of the team were Steve Nelson, also from IT. And then we also had, in addition to that, just so you're aware, because I promised you a whole approach, we had Superior Court a representative from Superior Court, the public defenders, the prosecutors, Spokane Police Department, public police records, and Frontier Behavioral Health. And these were all the people that are on the committee that went through everything. All right, we're on next slide for me, please. Okay, this is a busy slide, but I'll just point out what's really important to you. Down at the bottom, the statement of work. We get 305 people a day, living, breathing human beings in the lobby space because we count them every day. We also get 120 requests via email or phone call that we also have to answer and to the public. So there's a lot of action going on, but the 305 people are in the lobby space touching everything. We have lines out the door, we have sanitizer, we have masks, we have all the rules required, but these lines go out the door. They're right next to the courtrooms. The courtrooms have lines, the attorneys are coming in. And the whole intent of this program is to get remote filing capability. That's what we really need to make it work. So people can do stuff from home, we get the paperwork, and we can route it electronically by everybody coming in person. There are some instances that people have got to come in person, but we can't have it for everybody. We got to have some options. And this includes one of the more important things is protection orders. We need to get those electronic so folks can do those for their safety and for the public safety. But I want to add more to it real quick. This came from Chief Justice Deborah Stevens of the Washington State Supreme Court. And this is what she said. It is hereby ordered, so this is not something we can negotiate or talk about. It's hereby ordered. Court operations are essential as recognized by the governor's proclamations and by the Supreme Court. This court recognizes the authority of all courts to conduct essential court operations to include not only trials and other hearings, but also the essential operations of the clerk's office, facilities planning, technology improvements, and the general administration of justice. In all court operations, courts are to follow the most protective public health guidance applicable to their jurisdiction and should continue using remote proceedings for public health and safety whenever appropriate. So that's directive in nature, to use remote capability, use technology to help mitigate the COVID-19 and reduce the crowds that we have inside the courthouses in the my lobby space. Quick groundwork. So you let me hire, you gave me funding, so I got a business analyst. Shiloh did an incredible job. Broke it down in 3 phases. She assessed all our procedures, all our processes, everything that we do, include workflow and how we interface electronically, IT-wise, with the court, the prosecutor, and the public defender. So how all that works together. So she wrote that all out and created a flow chart on how all these documents move. Then we talked to all the vendors. We talked to 20 separate vendors. And we went through all the vendors and their capabilities and their system, what would work, what would not work, and what were we looking for. So we did all that the next month. 5 vendors we chose to demonstrate. One actually dropped out. We weren't a big enough fish for them. So they ended up dropping out, but 4 vendors we selected that became demonstration vendors. They demonstrated for 2 hours. We assigned them business rules, requirements, and scenarios to demonstrate. And that team I mentioned to you earlier sat on Zoom and watched this 2-hour-long demonstration. Of those 4, 3 are in the top, are top ranked in the nation nationally in providing e-filing systems to counties. So that worked out real well in our favor. It wasn't, we weren't planning to do it that way, it's just how it worked out. After each demonstration, we went to phase 3. 1 hour of the team talking about pros and cons, capabilities. Did they meet the requirements? Could they do our scenarios? Can they implement with our capability, our system, our volume? Are they capable of doing that? So that was all part of the phase 3. And we went through all of that. And we also tied in how it would support our telecommuting employees. So we have 1/5 of my office telecommuting. We want to keep them out of the courthouse. So how would this program enable them to do their jobs telecommuting? So we looked at all that. And again, the bottom line, after those 3 phases, was identify somebody that could actually do this process. And now we're here. And I'm here today with an ask, because our next step is to implement a fully functional electronic filing system that can integrate with our other county agencies, prosecutor, public defender, and the courts, test it, maintain it, and budget for it. That's what we're going to tell you. Ron, next slide. So here's my ask. We have selected a vendor, and I'll talk more about them in a second. But go down to bullet number 2, the expected costs. All right, to install this program, to configure it, to test it, to train my office to use it, and an annual subscription for next year, as we understand it, and I'll have Kerry speak in a few moments, is $130,000 one-time CARES Act funding. The concern I'm here today is the next bullet, and that is consulted technical assistance. We need technical assistance from our consultant to complete the integration and the workflow process of this system. This is a one-time request, non-CARES, will have to come out of the general fund, and it's $50,000 is what we'll need for next year to do the implementation and the workflow process. And that's why we're here this morning. After that, the annual subscription of about $60,000 will be something we'll have to address next budget session in 2022. So non-CARES, $50,000, that's why we're here today. That is the ask, $50,000 for technical assistance to make the workflow and the integration of the vendor we have selected to get them to put the process in place and get it going. Jerry.
Tim or Doctor, I think you're still on the line. If the $50,000 is granted, how long is the consulting and the training period? Is it a month? Is it 6 months? Is it a year?
Mr. Fitzgerald, would you like to answer that, or would you like me to?
Go ahead. He asked you, you answer first, and I'll just chime in.
Sure. So Ken Moore and myself have looked at a rough timeline for implementation. At this point, 6 to 9 months would be for that total ask. It just would be whatever was needed. We're thinking about 30 hours a week at the max, and go from there.
All right, thank you.
That's what eliminates it out of the CARES funding.
That's it. Because it's actually paid during work session next year, therefore it's not CARES compliant.
Right. Okay.
I guess at this point, Kerry, did you want to say anything, or Gary, did you, I'll bypass that.
Well, I just see 2 things here. First of all, it looks like your first request on CARES funds is $130,000. Everything that I've seen, and I think Kerry's reviewed this, that is a pretty applicable expenditure of CARES funds. And then the next ask that you had was to be able to fund through your normal budget process in 2021, the $50,000. And then in ongoing years, recognize that in 2022, we'll have ongoing subscription costs associated with this software. So if I understand that correctly, that's the gist and the summation of what you're asking.
That's it, spot on. And we believe that we could save approximately $53,000 a year in costs, not buying cleaner to wipe the counters off because a lot of customers there, hand sanitizers, ink, papers, reams of paper, work on the scanning machines, work on the copy machines. All that can be dispensed because it's all done electronically. So we believe right now at our cost estimate going through, and Leslie Shaw did a very detailed analysis of this, but she handles all our purchasing anyways, and she went through it all. Not to mention the fact that we're saving employee time. That's a whole nother thing. That's an intangible, but we could come up with facts and figures on that close enough.
Jerry?
One of the things that, if the board approves this, the opportunity of these is to right-size the organization once you get fully implemented. We're going to see a change in the county where, and I'm not talking about layoffs or anything like that. I'm just talking about maybe attritions or something. When these efficiencies are gained, and what I would ask of our Ken and the electeds and everybody else is keep in mind that when these are implemented and you're 6-9 months down the road and this becomes the norm, to take a look again and make sure that we are now right sized for the new reality. So I can see opportunities in this if it goes all electronic over the next few years. So that would be the ask.
Because one of the things we would do is we would take certain positions and we'd restructure them.
Exactly.
And they would sit in front of a computer and accept electronic filings and then send them out to the appropriate folks to process. Processors won't change. Processors will process, but they're telecommuting. That's what we want. Courts will be in courtrooms. I can't change that. That's a statutory law. I have to be in the courtroom. That won't change. But so many other folks can sit there, and as these e-filings are coming in, first we gotta have to quality assure them, make sure they're done correctly, and then we start moving them out to where they gotta go, to who gets it next in the workflow electronically. And so instead of sitting at a desk answering phones, they'll sit at a desk and they'll answer electronic filings that are coming in. So we'll restructure their position titles, stuff like that, keeping within the budget constraints, but they'll do something different. So no extra people.
Okay.
No extra people at all. Zero. Okay.
Before we get any further, Mary or Josh, do you have any questions or anything?
Yeah, I guess this looks great, and I think it's good to try to get to that, being electronic and all of that. But I'm going to kind of reiterate what Jerry said, is that we continue to spend more and more money across all departments on software that is supposed to make us more efficient and more effective. And so at some point, we've got to look at what that's doing with our salaries as well. So I just want to make sure that we're continuing to look, to the future as, and again, I'm with Jerry, not layoffs, but just as attrition happens, that we're not continuing just to keep it the same number or try to increase our numbers of employees just because just keep increasing the numbers when everyone keeps coming to us and telling us that we're going to be more efficient, we're going to be more effective with going electronic. So I just want us to be, mindful of that. I'm, completely in favor because I know, having been up in the clerk's office and seeing things and, it's just time to do it. Now, one of the things that I'm seeing on this the cost benefit says customer satisfaction on par with Snohomish King. Are other counties already have this software in place, or are we the first one in the state, or where are we at there?
Ken or Dr. Grant, I know you guys are, this is you're going right down your alley.
Yeah, so we have talked to several agencies across the state that do in fact have e-filing up and running or have plans to move into that soon. So King, Snohomish, Pierce, there's several other smaller counties as well that have e-filing up and running. The capability of the solution that they have in some cases won't be quite or isn't quite as robust as what we're expecting to roll out by the end of next year. But it does exist across the state.
Okay.
So King County has a good system, but they have a lot of funding for it. Pierce has the best system. It's called Lynx. That is the best system in the state, and everybody loves it. Snohomish is using Tyler Odyssey, and they're still on a pilot. They've been in a pilot for a year, and it having correct me if I'm wrong, fair challenges.
Very slow to implement.
Very slow to implement. So we had Odyssey come, and they were one of our demonstration teams. They got to demonstrate for 2 hours, and they didn't meet some of our requirements. So and I'll talk more about the vendor we picked right after this on the final slide. Smaller counties have very small, very limited capability. We also want protection orders. That's a big deal for your constituents. It's a public issue right now, is protection orders. And we promised that we'd take care of that too electronically. So that's one of the focus areas we had.
May I add to that quickly, Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes, please.
One of the brilliant things that Mr. Fitzgerald did in this process is he reached out to the local bar association and he sent them an 8-item survey, I think it was. I'm not sure if you've seen the results of that, but there are several attorneys around here who have practiced on the West Side and who practice in Idaho. They're very familiar with this software, with the e-filing process. Just a little note, Idaho has had e-filing since 2018 statewide, and the local attorneys are very aware of this and they would really like the solution soon. So just something to think about as we're thinking about this implementation. We have a large group of users who are eager to get on board right away. That should help with efficiency as well.
I should read you some of the comments there. Not exactly pro Tim, but there's some funny ones in there. You know, why are you dragging your feet? What's taking you so long? Do your job. But the bar is your professional customers. You got to make sure the bar can use it because they're the ones that will be doing most of the work. And then pro safe protection orders. Next slide. Just real quick. So who we picked was ImageSoft, called True Filing. They're very adaptable. They're very flexible. They meet our needs. They can integrate with Application Extender, which is our document management system. They can integrate with Tyler, who is the case management system for the state. They are responsive to our calls. They did every one of our scenarios that we asked them to do, and they can do protection orders. And so we think they're, and then down below is what we graded them on. So usability, suitability, value added, references. The references is what Dr. Grant and what Ken talked about. We called other people that had their system and said, what do you think of it? And it gave us a feel for how other people felt about that system around the nation, because these are nationally ranked vendors. They have systems all around the nation. But you can see the score. ImageSoft was clearly the leader by 60 points. And so the team graded it. You saw who the team was. And when they graded different categories, and this is what we came out with. So we believe this is the best system for us to get. And those facts and numbers I showed you is their system. Last slide. I think Commissioner Cooney, you asked a little bit about a timeline. This is a generic timeline that we started putting together, kind of what we'd hope to do if we get approved for the $50,000 today. What we'd like to do is start getting the contract put together for the vendor, and Ken and Tony and Kerry will help with that. We want to be able to do a kickoff in December, get portions integrated in December, so we have at least 2 case types kind of up and running in December, and then we start tweaking those systems, have pilot attorney offices use those case types, and then as we roll into next year, we expand to 4 more case types to include criminal, bring in the prosecutor, public defender, and we have that workflow settled. And then by the time we get into the summer of next year, we anticipate having all 8 case types up and running electronically. And that's just a general plan. So it'll be a fully integrated system for all your justice partners, the court, Superior Court, not district, Superior Court, public defender, prosecutor, counsel for defense, and the clerk's office. And then we'll tie in juvenile with the Attorney General's office when we get to juvenile portion cases 7 and 8 connected there. And that's kind of what our timeline, but we have to get systems up and running by December, 2 portions of it, and that's what we're going to accomplish. We'll be looking at civil commitment, case type 6, frontier behavior health, and case type 2, civil law. So all your civil cases that come in, unlawful detainers, evictions, insurance fraud, medical fraud. So, and that also includes trial courts. A couple trial courts do civil cases on. So that's 2 out of the 8 up and running in December.
Okay, Mary?
So a couple more questions. So one's for Gary. So Gary, the $50,000 coming out of, anticipated into the 2021 budget, is that already in the budget, or is that not in what you've put together so far?
It will be incorporated into the budget presentation and the roundtable tomorrow, if of course you agree to the expenditure in Tim's budget. I also have to commend Tim for in this year's budget. He has cut several positions and has saved the county a lot of money. So adding 51,000 on a one-time basis back into his budget is, in my opinion, appropriate.
Okay, and it's not just a, I mean, I would say it's not a one-time because we're going to see 60,000 going forward. So it's a ongoing legacy cost of approximately 60,000. But
Starting in 2022.
Right.
So we have to get ready to budget for
right,
that.
yeah, but it's going to be ongoing. So anyway, okay. I think that's answered most of my questions. So the other question, I guess, Tim, is how does this help in efficiencies with the other areas of the criminal justice system? So if this is electronic filing, does this help make it more efficient for the judges, for the prosecutors, for the public defenders? Just curious on that side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We went electronic filing in a limited sense in civil commitment cases, and that helped out Frontier Behavioral Health get all their information. What it did was we stopped going out to 15 sites. So you weren't paying per diem, you weren't paying for gas, you weren't paying for traveling courtrooms anymore. We didn't go to those 15 sites. They all electronically sent their paperwork in, and we moved it into queues, file queues and stuff, so the court can reach in and pull it out. Prosecutor can reach in and pull it out. Public defender can reach in and pull it out, put their documents. This also ties into electronic signatures, which is what we really need to do. And this program here, ImageSoft, has electronic signatures. So it'll move things around electronically between us, the court, and the various agencies that deal with the clerk's office. So you won't have to come down and pull files. There'll be no more paper files. You won't be creating paper files. You won't be Leslie, how many paper files do you order a year?
I order $10,000 worth of paper files every year, and that would be a direct savings not only with purchasing the files, but also space.
Oh yeah, space. Clean all up. So when you come to my office sometime in the future, there won't be stacks of paper, and there won't be file racks anymore, because it'll be electronic. Yeah, that'd be really
So, and then Tim, one more question. So this is a different system than we saw with the Domestic Violence Coalition when they did their, was that Legal Adam that did that?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So this is a different one, but it'll be doing the same thing where people can file online, correct?
Correct. Legal Adams probably had, and back me up, Dr. Grant, but I think Legal Adams had the best protection order program. They did. They had the best program. But they can only do protection orders and some family law, case type 3. That's all they can do. They can't do the other 6 case types. True Filing can do all 8 case types and do protection orders.
Yes, the feedback from the voting group was that Legal Adams was a very promising young company. Unfortunately, they're just not on par with some of the larger, more established vendors at this stage.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay,
That's all we have.
okay, and the 130 has already been approved, the CARES funding and stuff, so that's already done deal, right?
I'm going to
Yes.
Okay,
I'm here, Commissioner. Yes, we've gone through, I spent time with everyone on Wednesday. Yeah, this does fall within CARES funding guidelines.
I guess my question, Carrie, is have we already authorized 130,000 of CARES funding to be spent on this, or do we need to take care of that today?
You need to take care of it today. It hasn't been authorized yet.
Okay, so then I'm looking to Commissioner Kearns for a motion, assuming we want to move forward with this.
Yep, I'm comfortable with moving forward.
Okay, then go ahead and make motion.
All right, Mr. Chair, move to approve and authorize CARES dollars expenditures in the amount of $130,000 to accommodate the software upgrade and presentation and one-time expenditures as presented today by County Clerk Tim Fitzgerald.
I'll second that.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Let the record reflect the motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Anything else?
And then the 50,000.
Well, we'll do that as part of the budget process.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll roll that in your budget.
Okay,
That's all we have.
very good. Sheriff Knezovich is going to be joining us at 9:30
Coming in physically.
physically. Also, later on this morning, I'd like to add 2 executive session items. One pending a potential litigation, the other one review of the performance of a public employee.
Do you want to do that at the morning or the afternoon?
Let's do that at the morning because I'd like to add another executive session for this afternoon of pending potential litigation.
Okay.
But I think the other 2 we can deal with this morning. Do either one of you have a hard stop at 12? Okay.
Another thing is,
I've got a WASAC thing I was going to jump on, but I can be late to it. It's just listening in on their presentation.
Well, if I'm just trying to, got the 3 executive sessions that we have to add for today. And I just asked if we could add 2 of them for this morning, and that should deal with it. We should be out of here by noon without any trouble. But I just, if you have either one of you had to leave earlier, I just want to respect that. And then the other one we can deal with this afternoon. So, okay?
Should work.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We're waiting for, yes.
while we're waiting, we have the legal has looked through our proposed contract with the Department of Corrections. Sparber briefed the board earlier on this. It's made some very good improvements to the financial picture for us. It's not perfect, obviously, but it's a step in the right direction. And we can either put it on by leave for tomorrow if you wish, or you could approve the contract now.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
So is Gary, have you looked at that? You were kind of, I think you were not here when we started down this road last December.
You weren't.
Okay.
So I'm just asking if you've taken a look at it to see how the reimbursements are happening and all of that.
And Jerry kind of cut out there. What was it, Jerry?
This is the contract that we had with the Department of Corrections. You remember we were going back and forth and basically got to a point saying we may not be taking your prisoners if we don't get some leave. There's a retro payment for the medical that goes back to 2015, I believe. And I can have Sparber come back in and refresh everybody's memory. If you don't need that to take place, we do want to get the contract approved if we can, so we can get the revenues flowing in before the year's over, please.
Got it.
Right.
Gary's not seen it. Gary's not seen this.
I would like Gary to take a look at it just because it does deal with finances and stuff as well. So if that's okay.
Sure.
So if he can take a look at it between now and tomorrow, is it okay to add it as a by leave, or would you rather just put it off until next Tuesday?
No, I think I'd be okay as a by leave. I just,
That would help.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get a sense of urgency out of Jerry and stuff, so I want to respect that. So
Yes.
if Gary, you can give it your holy water blessing before tomorrow at 2 o'clock, that would be great. All right.
I guess I would just like to, maybe Gary, you and I can have a conversation just so I know where we were, where we're at and all of that with it as well.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay. Very good. So we've been now joined by Sheriff Knezovich and Mr. Ellis. So you're on, sir.
Thank you. Commissioners, they just put out a blueprint for reform status report. And on the second page of that report, in the 4th paragraph, basically the last sentence, and I highlighted that, and commissioners will try to get you an electronic copy shortly. It states that the jail population at one point following the pandemic had been cut by roughly 40%. There were warnings of increased crime rates, but they have not been realized. I want to know where they got their stats. I want to know what communities they are talking about, because they are definitely not talking about Spokane County. And quite frankly, I am tired of the misinformation being put out by this group. This is pure misinformation. And it's time that it ends. We included our all area stats. Our aggravated assaults are up 23%, simple assaults up 8%, robberies up 21%, burglary residential 14%, burglary garage 25%, burglary commercial 71%, vehicle theft 3%, malicious mischief 14%, and vehicle prowling. This will be the first year since 2012 that we have had an increase in crime in the unincorporated areas of Spokane County. Now we can debate that in as far as 2016 because we are showing a trend, but we'll never know because we switched the system at that point. So it's kind of a dead year. I always mention it as a caveat. We may have seen a spike in 16, but we'll never know for sure. We know for sure that this is not just a spike. We have never seen double-digit increases in anything, and this is after we took proactive steps to try to bring these numbers down. And I really, really caution the board in allowing this statement to stand. The facts are clear. They are definitive. And again, I want to know, where are they pulling their numbers? Here's one of the more troubling is the city of Spokane. While many of their numbers look really good, they're on track to have 17 homicides this year. They've crossed that. Now this is coming into historic homicide levels. Historic. And you're telling me crime didn't go up? It's a 325% increase in homicides. The most violent crime that we deal with. And you want to tell me that crime has gone down? It's there. You can debate this. There are theories all over the place. And yeah, I can pull study after study on both sides of the line. It all depends on who's doing the study and what their motivation is. But the bottom line is this. You lose control of your low-level crime, your nuisance level crime, and you will see an increase in all other crime. You lose control of that mid-level crime, and you will see a spike in your major crime. 2020 for the United States will be a banner year because you will see a lot of spikes. Now, there's a lot of different reasons for that. But here locally, I can tell you that we saw this trend starting last year. I addressed the committee for the risk assessment tool last May of 19, with a warning that we are letting out bad people. And those bad people are hurting people. And now they're killing people. And I warned them that we were seeing an increase in the Valley's crime numbers in 2019. Spokane Valley closed 2019 with a 22% increase in crime. 22%. And that's last year is when we really started this, let everybody out, OR everybody. And the pandemic just gave more fuel to that fire. So we went from one jurisdiction starting to lose control when we hit the go button on let everybody out. And then all jurisdictions lost control when we just emptied the jails because of the pandemic. And then to have this group put this out saying that we can't show any significant increases. Well, where are you pulling your numbers? I want to know. So I'm here just giving the board a caution. Be careful about the numbers you're being presented. Be careful about the information you're being presented. And, you know, this is the way it is. This comes out of machine. There's no manipulation here. It is as it is. This is what we responded to. My heartburn for this entire discussion is this. The effectiveness of your law enforcement is the absence of crime. That's the indicator. It's been that way since 1829 when Sir Robert Peel said so. All right? That is the true indication of our effectiveness. And the people that work for the Spokane County Sheriff's Office take great pride in making sure that our community is safe. So you have a great place to go to work, go to school, raise a family, all that good stuff. But we are no longer getting the tools we need to stop that crime. And much of it's being driven from, quite frankly, activists. Activists that, I hate to say this, and I'm just going to be very blunt, that many have criminal records. Why are we listening to criminals concerning how we deal with criminal justice issues? They have a viewpoint, but they should not be dictating where we're going as a system. I can tell you that the plan that sits on a shelf from 2011 has everything the activist wants in it. It's all program centric. The linchpin is the Community Correction Center, which is where your programming is, where your early release is. The entire booking area is designed to be the triage center we're about ready to spend dollars on. That's all in that plan, every ounce of it. So why have these activists continued to fight against a plan that it gives them everything they wanted, every ounce? Because the ultimate goal of this group is not no new jail, it's no jail at all. We need to decide what kind of community Spokane County looks like for the next 20 years. Because I can tell you the path we're going down, there's not very many of you going to want to live here if we don't put the brakes on this. We've had multiple drive-by shootings this year. Our gang issue is starting to become a problem, a major problem. We had our hands around these problems a long time ago, and we have lost control of it now. In 2013, the youth of this community came to their pastors and said, we want the gang violence to stop. We locked hands with them, we gave speeches and everything else, but we did nothing to definitively change that dynamic. Why? Because the activists never let us do the job that we were elected to do. I'm hoping that what I've heard is true, that the board's going to take a relook at how that Law and Justice Council is made up. We go back to what the RCW says, and those of us that were elected by the people out there to do a job, start doing our job. And the activists, we will listen to you. We've listened. We've got where you want to go, but we have a community to protect, and we need to stop this. So, board, just be careful about what you're being told out there. This one flew in the face of all logic, and that's why I'm here. You get bombarded with a lot of information. I just want to make sure that the information you're getting is spot on, and you need to ask the question, what community did you look at?
Jerry? I have a question about that, the community looked at. And I may be reading this wrong, on our report, or excuse me, on the city of Spokane's report, their robbery commercial, is that the same as our burglary commercial?
No.
Okay, that was my first question, because what counterpart to their robbery commercial what narrative do we use in our facts that mirror this? Robbery. Just robbery, period? Okay, thank you. I'm just trying to get a handle around, because it says here on ours that burglaries in commercial were up 71%, which is, as you said, is not good, a good trend. The the robbery commercial in the city of Spokane.
They're two different crimes, Jerry.
Okay, that
Burglary and
explains it.
robbery are two different crimes.
Okay, very good.
So what's the difference?
What's the difference?
Yeah, I really don't. I never knew that there was a difference between burglary and robbery. I thought they were
Burglary
the same.
is I enter an unoccupied building, structure, fenced area, and I steal something from it or commit a crime in the area. Robbery is I'm taking it personally from you.
Got it.
Robbery is-
Okay.
Robbery is the use of force.
Got it.
Gun, fist, weapons.
So in that case, using the, thank you for that, but in that case, looking at it is not only is it raise your eyebrows on our rate in the county, but the city even has an increase on their rate of 10.5% almost.
And this year for the city is truly an anomaly because of COVID. They didn't have all the major things they usually have. All their major crime engine drivers kind of didn't take place. So are you getting a clear picture of what true crime is like in Spokane? Or are you getting this aberration of, well, this is what crime would be like in Spokane minus all the stuff that goes on in the year in this community?
Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful. I got a couple here. Any questions, Mary or Josh?
I would ask, is there a plan to get this information out to the public? I mean, do we want to schedule a press conference? Do we want to send out a press release? Is there something we want to do to highlight this?
I would like to, Commissioner, actually, whatever the board's comfortable with is what I'm comfortable with. You will hear me talk about this on my radio podcast, but I think it's time for a definitive statement by, Spokane County leaders that, we want a safe community. We are going to work towards a safe community. We want criminal justice reform, but reform does not mean let everybody out of jail.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think another important part of it, I mean, if we can click back to that last picture or the last document on the screen, I mean, it's starting with reliable information. I mean, it's starting with the facts, and I mean, when you can so easily point to that as being a factually inaccurate statement, I mean, that's an issue. That's a problem when right out of the gate you're not working with factual information.
That's why I'm here, Commissioner. When Under Sheriff Ellis read it, he got a hold of me. I said, this can't stand. We need to talk with the board and let you know that that information is not accurate. And for me, out of all those numbers, the city of Spokane's homicide rate is the one that is the most troubling.
Yeah.
I mean, my gosh, that is frightening level. And I really think that we need to start talking about it, and I think that we need to start letting people know that we've tried our best to bring the community in to help solve this problem. This is my 16th year on this problem now, because I actually started working this problem before I became sheriff, because when I decided to run for sheriff, I figured you better learn about it. So I was on the jail expansion committee. And for 16 years, this is now where we're at. Commissioners, we had an individual that tried to kidnap a woman out of I think it was a Walmart, out of a Walmart. This woman had a small child with her. They were thwarted by employees at the business. We ended up arresting him, and he got out with no bond. He was OR'd. What does that say to every one of our female citizens in this community when somebody can try to snag them out of a business and then get released immediately without bond? I can tell you what it said to me when I looked at my daughters and my wife. Unacceptable. And again, last May in 19, I told you about an individual that we let out of jail, and he tried to kill his roommate. Well, that same individual got out of the system again this May and killed somebody in the valley 3 weeks later. Dave?
For the commissioners, one other real life scenario that occurred in the valley was we had a suspect who committed a robbery. We got in a chase with him. He was arrested. The bail bond project came in and bonded him out, got him released. 3 weeks later, he committed another robbery, and we got in a chase with him, and he crashed into a civilian and killed a civilian.
And he was armed that time. He had guns in the vehicle.
And
He was a gang member. He had a criminal history, and we just kept letting him out. Dave?
I was just gonna say that's a real life example of, it's something that's not gonna show up in these stats necessarily, but there's a citizen who was just driving home and was killed by a suspect who should have been in jail.
I assume that we have the ability to track which judicial officers are most prone to OR these criminals and which ones aren't.
I believe that you can do that, Commissioner.
Okay.
I believe that can be done.
Okay.
And I'll be very frank with the board. Superior Court hasn't been very happy with me for about the last 2.5 years because there are times that my PIO will drop a name of a commissioner who lets somebody off without an OR or bond or whatever. And they get really, really angry about that. And I just looked at them and go, all right. I was asked just recently by one of the court, what kind of legacy you want in reference to criminal justice? And I think my legacy is pretty well sealed. But the part of my legacy that I don't want is the fact that we haven't fixed this jail incarceration criminal justice system. And that's a failure in my eyes. It will always be a failure in my eyes that I was unable to get this done in 16 years. I failed this community in that respect. And I think it's more important because I looked at the judge that said that and I said, what do you want your legacy to be? The person who let everybody out? I've never really thought much of legacies. I just figured your record's your record and you're going to stand where it is. That's how it all shakes out. But if you really want to start thinking about legacies, well, this is a failure for everybody that's been involved in it for the last 16 years. This is a stark failure. And I don't want to fail my community. I take what I do very seriously, and I take the commitments I made to this community very seriously. And I think that right now we're letting them down.
Okay. Any other questions for the sheriff or Mr. Ellis? Okay.
I would just say thank you for coming and talking to us and letting us know. And this is the only thing we're going to hear because it isn't being out there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to your other issue, we are going to be taking a look at restructuring the SRLJC.
All right, well, thank you. I look forward to that. Let me know when that meeting's gonna be.
Yeah.
I wanna make sure that I'm standing on the table going, aye.
Okay, thanks, Jerry.
Thanks, Jerry.
Okay, we are now to Miss Carrie Griddle. Carrie, the floor is yours.
Good morning. I think the first one we're not up yet. I don't know if Gina's in the room. We need to get Stephanie on.
I emailed Stephanie just now and waiting for a response.
We're waiting for a response from Stephanie right now. Are there any others here that you want to try and take in the meantime, or we can deal with some miscellaneous matters and then come back to this? I know that we anticipated the sheriff would take more time than he did.
Right. I don't think we have anything else. We've got people scheduled pretty much at a clip this morning from 10:15 on. So if you want to deal with commission or miscellaneous, that might be better.
All right, we've got a couple other items we can deal with in the meantime. Go ahead, Jared.
I could think, yeah.
This item might fill the spot really nicely. It's probably only take 1 or 2 minutes. Spokane Journal of Business, as they do about twice a year historically, has asked if we would like to have an ad in the 2021 book of lists. We've done it for the last 2 years, along with the GSI magazine, and we've done it periodically even before that. It'd be about $1,200 for a half-page ad. I'd work with our digital content manager to develop something. We can completely change the messaging that we've had before if you wanted to focus on something such as COVID response or CARES Act dollars. But I think the first question is whether or not the board would like to participate in advertising in the 2021 book of lists.
Any thoughts?
How much?
$1,200.
Well, it's whatever you want, but historically we've always done the $1,200 half page.
Yeah, Barry?
I'm good with it.
Okay. Josh? Okay.
I was hoping it'd take a little bit longer than that.
Well, we have to see the ad first. If you totally bomb the ad, we may change our mind.
Fair enough. So we did the GSI magazine kind of at the height of the pandemic this last summer, and it was focused on economy recovery. Is that the direction that you would like me to at least start for the first draft?
I honestly don't remember what that ad looks like. Do you two remember what it looked like?
It had a list of, and I can send it around real easy, but it had a list of everything Spokane County is doing in bullet point format to recover the economy. It had a 1 or 2 sentence quote from Commissioner French as chair, and then it had a nice, pretty picture of, I believe, the courthouse or something like that.
I don't know if I saw it, so I don't know.
I'll dig it up and send it to everybody in the next 5 minutes here.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, Jared?
No.
Anything from either one of you? Anything on your mind? Thinking about, could have seen me, kind of started thinking about. We're going to deal with the health district this afternoon as a executive session item.
Commissioner, I just have one item that I, will probably be able to address maybe tomorrow after all of the CARES Act funding. Just kind of a recap where we'll be going forward. Cindy, Wendell, and I are working on that to be able to discuss that with the commissioners where we are to date.
Okay.
So the updates, but I have a little bit more to talk to you about tomorrow.
So by way of an update, I got a call late last night from Cindy Wendell, indicating that evidently there has been a flare-up of COVID cases in a couple of the shelters over the weekend. And one of them is even a family shelter that includes kids. The thought is that it's probably a result of Halloween. And so this would be about the time some of those cases would be coming forward and stuff. So they are working with the health district for standing up some isolation facilities to be able to handle the outbreak. And at this point, felt that there is adequate capacity to be able to accommodate those that have been identified with the COVID. But we did talk about ways to expand capacity. They are working with the health district to be able to cover the cost of the isolation facilities. The preliminary indication is that the health district thinks that they've got money in their budget to cover the cost, but of course, that's always contingent upon how severe the outbreak is and how long it might last. So just nothing for us to do at this point, but keep it in the back of our minds, because it might mean that we might have to provide some additional funding for the health district to help cover the cost of whatever kind of flare up they're having to deal with and stuff. So just kind of more information for you than anything else. So, okay. So at this point, you want to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll reconvene at about 10 o'clock. And hopefully by that time, some of our guests will be joining us and we can continue on. Okay. Why don't we go ahead and recess until for.
Stephanie needs about 5 minutes and then she'll be.
Yeah, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. So it's now 9:57. We'll reconvene at 5 after 10. So it's 6-minute recess. And we'll reconvene at 10:05. That clock is.
Audio